output of two models, best capital adequacy ratio and the solvency capital requirement under Solvency II, have been compared in some new research by AM Best. I'm Yvette Essen for AM Best TV. I'm joined by Tim Prince, Director of Analytics, to talk through that report that has been published. Before we delve into the details and the comparisons between the two models, could you tell me a little bit about what we look at in terms of analysis besides just BCAR?
Sure. So at AM Best we have a building block approach to our methodology, whereby our balance sheet strength assessment forms the baseline of our methodology. We can then add or detract from that baseline through our other building blocks of operating performance, business profile and enterprise risk management before ending up at an ultimate issuer credit rating. Within the balance sheet assessment itself, we have our BCAR model, which is the feature of this report. One of the interesting findings from the report is that the BCAR assessment is not the balance sheet assessment, and there are lots of other factors within the balance sheet which offset what is typically a strong BCAR assessment in Europe for European companies. These are issues such as reinsurance dependence and the quality of reinsurance. These are issues such as financial leverage and interest coverage, and also wider issues such as asset liability management and liquidity.
So let's dig into the details now of the comparisons that we made with regards to SCR versus BCAR. Were there any correlations, any similarities that we noted in particular?
Well, some background first. So the report is looking at the rated companies within Europe, which is not all of the companies within Europe, and it's also looking at the 2017 year end. What we can say from our research is that, broadly speaking, companies with stronger Solvency II ratios also typically have stronger BCAR ratios, and it was quite pleasant to see that very few outliers exist. So there are very few companies where that is not true.
Were there many differences as well that we noted? You mentioned similarities, but were there differences as well?
When we're looking at models, I think we can first think of them as estimates rather than anything else. And when we think about how the models are calibrated, whilst there's a lot of research that goes on or has gone on for both models, the research is factored into assumptions on top of assumptions. So in general, we wouldn't expect there to be the same output for both models. When we're looking at the differences between the models, I think it's worth sort of stepping back and thinking at a very high level, what are the macro differences between the two. And to start with, we're using different data sources. So under Solvency II, companies are filing specific regulatory returns, which are used for the Solvency II formulas, while under AM Best BCAR model, we're using companies' IFRS or GAAP financial statements. Within the two independent models, there's also differences in definitions of how things are classified, so that might influence what risk bucket they fall under within each model. And I think one of the fundamental differences is that while both models can be compared using the value at risk 99.5 confidence level, they're not under the same time horizon for all risks. So while BCAR looks at the ultimate time horizon for some of the underwriting risks, the Solvency II is typically looking at a 1 year time horizon for everything.
A copy of that report by AM Best can be found on ambest.com. For AM Best TV, I'm Yvette Essen.